Western Spring Television. Ours it is.
Here are the top stories of the news. CBN denies authorizing deposit banks to collect old 500 and 1,000 naira banknotes. Presidency describes claims of plan to install interim government as untrue. On the foreign scene, African heads of state begins annual continental meeting in Addis Ababa. Good afternoon and welcome to Spring News at 12 on Western Spring Television. My name is Tunde Ido. The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has denied reports making the rounds that it has authorized deposit money banks to collect the old 500 and 1,000 naira banknotes. In a statement by CBN's Director of Corporate Communication, Osita Wanisobi, yesterday, he said the Apex Bank is only reissuing and recirculating the old 200 naira banknotes, which is expected to circulate as legal tender up to April 10, 2023, in line with President Muhammadu Buhari's directive. The CBN advised the public to disregard any message or information not formally released by the bank on this subject. It also advised media practitioners to endeavor to verify any information from the correct sources before publication. In the meantime, Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu says he has noted with deep concern the protests in some parts of the state this morning, adding that there is no need for violence in the metropolis. Parts of Lagos experienced some unrest with protesters who are said to be angry over the Naira redesign, taking to the street and displaying their frustration with violence. In his reaction, Governor Sanwo-Olu said he believes there is no need for violence as the Supreme Court is looking into this controversial matter and will make its position known on February 22nd.
In such behavior to desist from such sharp practices. It is especially in difficult times like this that we all need to be our brothers and our sisters' keeper and do everything that we can to contribute to lessening the hardship faced by our fellow Lagosians. This is not the period to sacrifice empathy, compassion, and humanity on the altar of profits and exotic money making. And to my good people of Lagos, please resist the opportunists who seek to take advantage of the anger and frustration that we're all feeling to hike the situation and to foment trouble amongst us.
Similarly, the Nigeria Police Force has warned against attacks on banks and described such action as armed robbery. This warning came on the heels of attacks on banks' facilities in several parts of the country following the Naira crunch. The spokesman, who called on Nigerians to be civil in their protests while citing the recent events in Edo, Delta, Ogun, and some parts of Lagos State, also warned against attacks on police officers. This comes as protests broke out in many areas across Lagos and Ibadan and Port Harcourt yesterday over the Naira scarcity and the inability by Nigerians to access the new notes. Meanwhile, some residents of Rivers State yesterday took to the streets of Port Harcourt, the state capital, to protest the federal government's monetary policy and the scarcity of the Naira notes. The epicenter was the popular and busy Mile 3 market along Equatorial Road in Port Harcourt's city local government area. The protest, however, turned violent a few minutes later as hoodlums who were in the market area seized the opportunity to forcefully dispossess people of their property. Shops were also burgled and the windshields of cars along the street were smashed, while passers-by and drivers were also said to be injured. The Rivers State government or the State Police Command is yet to comment on the issue. And to political matters, the presidency has described as untrue the claim that President Muhammadu Buhari is working towards an interim government, assuring that elections will hold. In a statement yesterday, a spokesman to the president, Garba Shehu, said the talk of interim government and truncation of democracy is way off the mark. He noted that the said plans is another dangerous dimension by people who are afraid that they may lose the elections. While admitting that there is a problem with the way the currency swap has gone, the presidential media aide said the way to go is not to panic. He further added that the president was concerned with this problem and opened several avenues for consultations with leaders and groups across the country. And here in Osun State, Speaker Osun State House of Assembly Timothy Uwoye has condemned the killing of Ebenezer Alaro of the All Progressive Congress APC in Ilesha. The Speaker, in a statement by his media aide Kunle Alabi, called on the Osun State Police Command to leave no stone unturned in unraveling the circumstances leading to the murder of the deceased. Ebenezer Alaro was reportedly killed in front of his father's house at Aromire Street in Ilesha yesterday. The deceased was traced home and shot dead after he participated in the early morning rally organized by the Speaker to show up support for the candidates of APC in the forthcoming February 25th election. Mr. Uwoye therefore called on the police to investigate the gruesome murder of Alaro with a view to ensuring that those involved are brought to justice. He stated that such heinous crime is, if not quickly investigated, and perpetrators docked could aggravate an already tense situation that could lead to breakdown of law and order in the state before, during, and after the forthcoming election. Some hoodlums have attacked the Ukpo High School training camp being used by the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) to train its officials ahead of the election. That the hoodlums invaded the school located in the Inewi South local government area of Anambra State and disrupted the activities of the electoral umpires, trainers, and trainees. Confirming the incident, the Anambra State Police Public Relations Officer DSP Tochukwu Ikenga said police operatives prevented the hoodlums from abducting or causing harm to the trainees and their trainers. In Niger State, the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) has disclosed that internally displaced persons voting centers have been created for persons displaced by insecurity in the state. The Niger State's resident electoral commissioner Ahmed Garki, who stated this during a stakeholders meeting yesterday in Mina, said 247 polling units across the state were affected by insecurity in the state. He added that plans have been concluded to ensure that people from those units are not disenfranchised. Mr. Garki disclosed that the internally displaced persons will participate in the forthcoming general elections from their various camps. You're watching Spring News at 12 on Western Spring Television. We'll be right back after this break.
Olayinka Herbert Macaulay, politician, nationalist and journalist, was the first Nigerian to qualify as a civil engineer, surveyor and architect. Born on November 14, 1864, Herbert Macaulay was the founder of Nigeria's National Democratic Party, the first political party in pre-independent Nigeria. Scholars of Nigeria's political history describe Herbert Macaulay as the intellectual bulldog of 19th century Nigerian nationalist movement, in deference to his qualities as founder and leader of two foremost political parties, Nigeria National Democratic Party (NNDP) and National Council of Nigerian Citizens (NCNC). His matchless versatility in party organization and control kept the British colonialists on their toes in the entire span of his active life. After his death on 7th May 1946, Herbert Macaulay remained remains a hero which recognized his anti-colonial struggles. Today, Nigeria's 10 naira coin bears his oval face and trademark mustache. Western Spring Television identifies Herbert Macaulay as a major character in history. Named Mao Zedong at birth, but globally known as Mao Zedong, he was a Chinese revolutionary and founder, People's Republic of China, which he led as chairman of the Chinese Communist Party from 1949 until his death in 1976. He was a communist who believed in the attainment of power by the instrumentality of gun. His wise saying, "Political power grows out of the barrel of gun," formed the major plank of his revolutionary struggle for the control of China. In the long span of his leadership and political power, Mao Zedong relentlessly entrenched the communist philosophy in China, which emphasized the revolutionary struggle of the vast majority of people against the exploiting class and their state structures. The communist leaders defined the class struggle as people's war. Mao Zedong was a story of grass to grace, having risen from peasantry to preeminent status as China's most respected leader. Western Spring Television identifies Mao Zedong as a major character in history. Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela was an anti-apartheid activist who gave his all for the elimination of what has been described as the world's most vicious rule of the unjust and man's inhumanity against man. He was born July 18, 1918 in Mvezo, South Africa. Educated and trained as a successful legal practitioner, he took up the gauntlet of a human activist against segregation by the minority white suprematists in South Africa. At the climax of his trial for treason, orchestrated by the minority South African government, the great crusader for democratic equality was prepared to pay the supreme sacrifice to establish majority rule in his native land. He told white jurists that if achieving freedom for his people was worth his life, he was prepared to die. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in Robben Island, described as the most notorious prison in the world. It was from this same prison that he came out as a free man to assume office as South Africa's first black president in 1994. Western Spring Television identifies Nelson Mandela as a watershed character in history.
Welcome back. And to security matters, troops of the Nigerian Army and the Navy have killed 7 bandits during clearance operations in the Castle General area of Chikum local government area of Kaduna State. State Commissioner for Internal Security and Affairs Samuel Aruan, who disclosed this yesterday, said the troops who made contact with bandits around Ungwan Rimi village in Kaso near a river engaged and subdued them after a fierce battle. Mr. Ruwan said 7 of the bandits were killed, adding that there was a high possibility of more of the bandits eliminated or even injured. According to Mr. Ruwan, items recovered by the troops included 5 motorcycles, 153 rounds of ammunition, 7 magazines, and 3 mobile phones. Elsewhere, the federal government has announced that a total of 178 local government areas in 32 states and the Federal Capital Territory were at risk of high floods this year. This was disclosed in Abuja while providing the general highlights of the 2023 annual flood outlook put together by the Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency and presented to the public by the Minister of Water Resources, Sulaiman Adamu. The minister outlined the highly probable flood risk states to include Adamawa, Abia, Akwa Ibom, Anambra, Bauchi, Bayelsa, Benue, Cross River, Delta, Ebonyi, Ekiti, and Edo, among others include Gombe, Imo, Jigawa, Kaduna, Kano, Kebbi, Kogi, Kwara, Lagos, Nasarawa, Niger, Ogun, Ondo, Osun, Oyo, Rivers, Sokoto, Taraba, Yobe, Zamfara, and the Federal Capital Territory. Mr. Adamu said the annual flood outlook by NIHSA also showed that coastal flooding will be experienced in Delta, Cross River, Delta, Edo, Lagos, Ogun, Rivers, and Ondo states due to rising sea level and tidal surge, which will impact on fishing, wildlife habitation, and river navigation. On the foreign scene, African heads of state have begun their annual continental meeting in the Ethiopian capital, Addis Ababa. This year's African Union Summit is being held amidst increasing insecurity in parts of the continent and a major food crisis as several countries face severe drought. This is the first major gathering of leaders from across the continent in Addis Ababa since the AU brokered a peace deal between the Ethiopian government and forces from the country's Tigray region. The deal ended one of Africa's deadliest armed conflicts following the agreement. Fighting has stopped and access to humanitarian aid has increased. Speaking during the 36th AU Summit Prayer Breakfast, the Patriarch of the Ethiopian Orthodox Theodore Church, Abune Matthias, said the country has witnessed tremendous suffering, displacement, and loss of loved ones.
Our very existence and people, as people, we witnessed tremendous suffering, displacement of our people, and incredible loss life. But difficult as this trial have been, it is safe to say that they are behind us now. We truly have much to be thankful for. We would like to particularly appreciate the work of His Excellency President Obasanjo, who was instrumental in his role as African Union High Representative.
News outside Africa, rescue workers in Turkey have pulled at least 3 people from the rubble over 11 days after they were trapped when an earthquake hit the country. Hakan Yasingulu had been stuck under a flattened building in the hard-hit Haiti province for 278 hours when workers reached him yesterday. Teenager Osman Halbiye and Mustafa Avish were also saved in Antakya. The latest rescues come as the death toll caused by the 7.8 magnitude earthquake in Turkey and Syria passed 41,000, a figure which is expected to rise dramatically. And in the United States, police say a man armed with 3 guns fatally shot his ex-wife and 5 others during a rampage in a small rural town in the U.S. state of Mississippi. The victims were killed at several locations, including a store and 2 homes in Akrabutla, a community of fewer than 300 people. Police have charged a 52-year-old local man with first-degree murder and held him at the county jail. No motive for his attack has yet been identified. Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves said the suspect is believed to have acted alone. And to some sports stories, Christian Atsu, the Ghanaian footballer who piled his trade in the Turkish Super League, has been found dead in the rubble of the deadly earthquake in Turkey. The 31-year-old Ghanaian had been reported missing following the devastating earthquake, which have claimed the lives of tens of thousands of people in Turkey and Syria since February 6th. tremor from the earthquake had hit Atsu's residence, and Atayaspor's spokesperson Mustafa Ozet previously said the footballer had been found alive but was injured. This was refuted by the Ghanaian agent Murad Uzan as the search for the former Newcastle United and Llorente hit the post for the host before Victor Osimhen hit the woodwork for Napoli. Osimhen made it 2-0 after 33 minutes when he powerfully shot on the turn and beat Sao Solo goalkeeper Andre Consiglia at his near post. Osimhen has now scored in 7 successive Serie A matches for Napoli, who are trying to become Italian champions for only the 3rd time and for the first time since 1989-1990. Before we end the news, here is a recap of our top stories. The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has denied reports making the rounds that it has authorized deposit money banks to collect the old 500 and 1,000 naira banknotes. The presidency has described as untrue the claim that President Muhammadu Buhari is working towards an interim government assuring that elections will hold. On the foreign scene, African heads of state have begun their annual continental meeting in the Ethiopian capital, Addis Ababa. You can follow us on our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Western Spring Television. You can also watch us live on our YouTube channel at Western Spring Television. That ends the news at 12. I am Tunde Ido. Good afternoon.